With us 25 after 8 and very worrying news for the education sector, from female students being asked to sleep with educators for good grades to the KZN education sector being flagged as a corruption hotspot. That's the word being used. These are just some of the findings in Corruption Watch's latest report in the corruption in the education sector. It's a 400-page report entitled Sound the Alarm. Well, let's get some details then from Corruption Watch campaign coordinator Mzwandile Banjathwa joining us this morning. Mzwandile, good morning to you, and it's terrifying to read just part of the reports, just the few highlights I've seen: misappropriation of resources, maladministration and abuse of power, from the very bottom all the way to the top. Here's what angers me, and I'm sure many South Africans. It is the most vulnerable. It is students, it is pupils. How bad is this?
This actually, firstly, good morning, and good morning to the viewers. This is quite disturbing. It paints a very bleak picture, and worse still is the attitude and also the lack of agency in the side of the Department of Education in dealing decisively with some of the issues that we've raised. You would remember that this is not the first sectorial report focused on education. We released one in 2015 titled Loss of Principles, which details the extent of corruption in the Department of Basic Education, where we've highlighted 10 investigations that we have done. And the response from the Department of Education was to resort to rotating school principals from one school to the other. And these were principals that have been flagged or implicated in corruption. In some instances, the corruption, the abuse of power was to the extent where there have been allegations of rape in some instances. So this is quite disturbing.
It really is, and the question has to be asked while we unpack all these various issues around the corruption as well, because this is going to implicate a lot of people, all the way from those who deal with finance in the education sector, all the way up to CEOs, MDs, and management as well. Where do you get a sense then, Mzwandile, that we are able to get on top of at least one of these issues? We can't fix everything at once. What is the recommendations from this research to try and get on top of some of these problems?
Yeah, sure. I think the first thing is for us to understand exactly what the Department of Education is doing with these reports. Like I said, it's not the first sectorial reports that we've released on basic education, but this one focuses holistically on both the basic education and also higher education and training, where it touches on the SETAs and the challenges there, and TVET colleges as well. So we've listed a list of demands that we want the Department of Education to reply to. Firstly, it is to stop this rotation of school principals that have been implicated in corruption. Secondly, we want the Department of Education to strengthen its consequence management. But thirdly, and most importantly, we want transparency. Transparency in how many of these matters, because we are receiving, as Corruption Watch, we have received over 3,417 whistleblower matters on basic education. I wonder how many of these people, how many of our reporters have actually went to the Department of Corruption, Department of Education rather, and reported these matters. And if they have, how many of those cases have been received by the department? How many of those have been investigated? If there has been any investigations, what were the findings of those investigations? But worse still, we want to actually understand if there has been any matters that have been referred to law enforcement agencies. And if they have, what had happened to those matters.
Yeah, it's about holding people accountable, isn't it, as well? Because I see part of the report as well that come out is there's a system of rotation where perpetrators, whether found guilty or not, are simply moved aside. They're suspended for a while, aren't they, Mzwandile, and then they're moved into new positions. They move to other schools, for example, while those investigations are ongoing. And that's not going to solve the problem at all, is it?
No, it's not. And I think when you look at the alleged perpetrators, you find that it is firstly the school principal, and secondly, it would be the administrators from both the Department of Education and also in schools, but also it is the school governing body and the teachers. And we're beginning to see that there is a link between the corruption that is happening in basic education and also the unions and the role that they equally play there. So they seem to be defending a lot of their members who are at times implicated in gross mismanagement of funds. In some instances, these matters include school principals sleeping with students, and in some instances, extorting sexual favors. And this is quite disturbing.
Well, I'm sure we're going to unpack, because it's 400 pages. I've actually got the PDF document here as well. I'm sure there's going to be a lot for us to unpack over the next few days and weeks. Mzwandile Banjathwa joining us, Corruption Watch coordinator. If you want to read the full report, I see it is on their website, corruptionwatch.org.za. Mzwandile, appreciate your time joining us this morning. Very, very worrying details coming out of the Corruption Watch report into corruption within the education sector.